So while we're talking about SPSS, I thought I might share a quick little tip to maybe help speed up some of the things that you're doing when you're building your models out. So one of the first things is SPSS, the newest versions here, by default will cache the results after you have run it the first time. So for example, if you look here, you can see how this one has this little green box right here. This means that I've run this file before and it saved a cached version of that copy. So the next time that I run this, it's going to be faster. This one right here, as you can see, this one has not been run yet, hasn't been used in a stream yet, but even if it was used in a stream, no green box means that this one hasn't been cached. So once it's cached, it will run faster the second, third, fourth time that you run it. But one other thing that you can do to kind of speed things up a little bit is to increase the amount of memory that's available to SPSS. Now, primarily that's going to help you whenever it starts building out the actual models themselves. That's where it's going to be very compute intensive, and extra memory is going to help. This first initial step where it's ingesting the data, that's input-output, I/O, and the I/O piece of it is going to be relatively the same. There'll be a little bit of a performance improvement, but not as much. The second and third run that you have, it could potentially improve with that. But let me show you how I kind of determine this. So first of all, on my machine, now, there's several ways that you can do this too as well. I'm just going to use the task manager, and I can see this particular machine that I'm dealing with, it has around 32 gigs of memory on it. So what I can do is, here inside of SPSS, if you set the options and the system option, you can set the memory. Now the default it defaults to is 2 megs of memory. What I'm going to do here, though, is if I look here, this is what I'm saying is 31. So I got 32 megs of memory on this one, gigs of memory on this one, which is roughly 31K worth if you want to transmit it down into megabytes of information. So even if I took half of that, even if I set the setting to 15872, for example, it would be something that would improve the performance. So right here, now again, I will stress you would need to set this to whatever amount of memory you have on your machine. If you happen to put more than the maximum memory that the machine actually has on it, then it'll start swapping on the actual machine. That will make things run slower. So good rule of thumb I've always used with SPSS is about half of what my total memory is. So if I've got 32 gigs of memory, I'm going to give it 15 gigs of memory here to use inside of SPSS. When I run, let me show you a more larger example here. So here's one where I'm actually doing an actual model. I'm building an actual model on it. When I do it this, and we're going through several different models, so I'm doing a cart decision tree, a trade with a decision tree, a Bayesian network, a support vector machine, and I'm also running an auto node. Now I'm going to run all of these models simultaneously, and with this amount of memory, oops, hang on, I double clicked it, there we go. It literally runs all of those models within a very short amount of time. Probably 30 seconds or something it took to execute that. And then we can also kind of see from the outputs, I've got all kinds of outputs that come out of that particular model build that I just did. So if you're struggling a little bit with how you could speed it up, how you can make that model process work a little faster, that's a little trick. Again, determine total number of memory you have in your machine. I would not exceed maybe half of that. If you do, it'll start swapping on the machine. Go up to Tools, go up to Options, System Options, and try a setting higher than the default of 2 gigs as part of that. That should speed up, especially when you're actually doing a model creation like what we see in here. Let me show you one of the actual models itself. Here's the Bayesian one. So even within a Bayesian, it will build the Bayesian network much, much faster. And you'll be able to get your results much, much quicker by doing that. It, again, uses more memory than just the default of 2. So that's a little hint. That's something to help speed you up a little bit. If you have any other questions, just please let me know. And as we go forward, I'll try to share little tips like that too as I see them. Have a good one. Thanks.